We're off on running on the mind. Do you know that you have a mind? Or do you call it a brain? What's your own word for it? Or that's where I think from or feel from. Everybody would have a different concept of what the mind is. But let's see if we can come down to what you might call it. If I asked you what your mind is, what would you tell me? Well, I don't know. It's the thing that makes me think and feel, and I go by it. Sometimes it gives me a solution. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it gets upset. Sometimes it feels happier. Those are the kinds of answers that you might give. Or might you say, for instance, sometimes I get depressed, and I think unhappy thoughts, and my mind is doing that. Or sometimes I'm fearful. It's because I see something and my mind says, be fearful. Is that the kind of answers that you might give to me? They're all legitimate. No matter where you go on it, you can actually say, the mind is what makes me think that I am what I am. That's what I'd most likely say to you is my mind. And I say, good, that's a good answer for you. And I'd most likely ask you, do you have any idea of what I mean if I said to you, you might have two minds? What's that? Would you know that there are actually two minds? Would it puzzle you? Don't blame you. And I'd ask you, do you have any idea of what I mean by it? And I'd wait for your definitions of what you think the two minds are. We work along with, always though, with the intention that I want to bring to you the fact that you have two minds. You ready for that? Because you know you don't have to accept it, but are you ready for it? I found in myself that I had two minds, and for years I thought I had one mind. And I went into therapy because my mind was always aggravating me, always had feelings of insecurity, uneasiness, a low kind of esteem, a worry about what other people were thinking about me, all those kinds of things. Couldn't depend on just plain feeling good about myself. And indeed, I went into psychotherapy for myself in order to try to resolve this. And the analysts that I worked with over the years, or the therapists that I worked with over the years, they had an orientation that that mind, that human mind that was bothering me, could be corrected. And I worked for years on it, thinking that they had the answer to it. And in actuality, I would discover eventually that wasn't the answer, that my mind could not be corrected. That there were two minds. Oh my, what a discovery. There were two minds. The two minds are this human mind that's aggravating me, and there's another mind that I had originally, which was given to me by God, and which to this very moment is still in touch with Him, if I can get in touch with that mind and see that that mind is in touch with God. And that's the second mind. And the second mind is where healing comes from. The divine mind has no aggravations in it. After all, is God aggravated about anything? He knows all the answers to everything. He knows how to deliver them. And He knows that everything has behind it the opportunity to resolve the problem and get back to this feeling of peace and joy. That's what God knows. And it's in the divine mind. And so you are essentially a person who is happy, at peace, like diddly-dee. An actor's life for me, however that goes. That's you. Happiness. In peace, nothing bothers you. Doesn't bother God, nothing bothers God. Therefore nothing bothers you, because you're one with God through that divine mind. God sits in you. You sit in God. That's what's going on. You both sit in each other, one with each other. That's your divine mind. And we have deviated from that mind. We have chosen to ignore or overlook or want to maybe make our own mind. I like to be something different than maybe what God is giving me. And so up you come with your idea of what kind of mind you'd like to experiment with to see if you could do a better job maybe than God could do. Now you don't remember that. You don't remember it. But in actuality, there is this mind which God did not create, and that's the human mind. And God says of that human mind, it's a destructive mind. That its nature is a savage nature. It does not feel love, not the kind of love that God has. Hey baby, do you love me? Well, you want them to love you. You didn't ask her, can I love you? You asked, can you love me? That's the human mind. It's a taker. It feels needy. It has the power to seek out convenient kinds of relationships that make it feel good because it doesn't feel good in the first place. And it's always looking outside of itself as though that's where the problem exists. That's the human mind. And the human mind's an attacker. The human mind can make you feel depressed. The human mind can turn on you in order to convince you that you better work harder at this human place, at this distraction, and don't go anywhere else. So it makes you feel down on yourself or anxious. The human mind also does that by attacking others. They're the ones who are to blame. So the human mind is either downing you or downing someone else. The human mind is very interested as well in survival. The divine mind has no concern about survival because it's divine. It's eternal. It doesn't need to have a tuna fish sandwich on rye or whole wheat bread or whatever it is that you're thinking about. Or you want a hoagie? That's the human mind. There are cosmic hoagies which are made out of the bread of heaven, which is pure love and joy. The human mind doesn't know it, so it has to come up with its own little hoagie of what it looks like in order to be able to feel good. The human mind, therefore, is substituting desperately to find things that could make it feel good and getting it from others, demanding it from others in order to please itself. The divine mind just looks to be joyful and to give to others its own feeling of love. It doesn't need to be love because it knows it is love. It doesn't worry about what it's feeling from you. You don't have to deliver anything to it because it knows it's lovable, and its one job, as God's job would be, is to give this away for others to have the joy of what God has. You have two minds, and healing becomes how are you able to abandon the human mind and be able to live from the divine mind. You've got two minds, and it's our job to be able to help you to get there. Make sense to you? Your two minds? Want to ask us a question? Do it by all means. That's the most helpful thing you can do, is to ask us questions, because then it gets personal, and that's what we want. That's why we're here talking to you. God wants healing expanded, and God has the eye on you to turn you into a healer as well. And the essence of that healing is to know there are two minds, and one of them gets abandoned when you see that the other one has got a lot more going for it, and you help others to do that also by the way you love them. Got it? Take care.